Yes, guys, we're not having no music today yet. We just go jump in. The subject being creation. Yeah, we was this live was requested from members of the Telegram group for us to break down a bit more the creation story, like pivot the discussion around the theme of creation. So what up, Celestial Samurai? So that's what we're gonna do. Bear with me 2 minutes. And remember the format, yeah? I'll present the case for creation, physical creation, sum it up in a certain type of way, like give a kind of context and timeline to it, put it in a perspective, and then I'll hand it to you lot to provide some questions to make your inherent understanding on it a bit clearer, yeah? That's what we're gonna do. Yeah. Namaste.
You're on live?
Yeah, I'm on live, man. I'm going to do a question and answer on creation quickly for
Okay.
these lot.
Alright.
But yeah, I got your message, man.
Yeah.
It's just heavy stuff, you know.
Childhood trauma, this fully new thing. I'm just watching it in the sky. You can't see anything for fuck's sake.
I'll pass by you like after, like a bit later though. I'm going to go gym and that.
No
And then
rush.
yeah, inshallah.
Yeah.
Salam. So yeah, guys, bam, yeah, creation. So I'm going to backpedal us in the story, rewind the clock. I did a personal prayer this time just to give us permission to go forward. It's a heavy time for all of us. I'm going through some heavy stuff myself, but this is the kind of stuff that keeps our spirit up here rather than down here. So I'm going to go ahead and give you this live, because when I give you this live, y'all give me something. Y'all give me growth as somebody who can awaken us. So it's something, it's very much a skill you have to learn as well. It's like, it's not everybody who's able to do this skill, and I appreciate and I give gratitude for the confidence and the articulation and whatsoever that I could present these cases to people and they could gain from it. Okay, so let's backtrack the clock. Yeah, and I say first, yeah, there's no shortcut to inner and overstanding. There's no one teacher, whether it's me, Jedefre, or somebody else, that's going to come up with no one concept or one video or anything of that nature, and all of a sudden you just get it. Like, that's not how it works. It works as you take this as a part of your journey to, as well as other things that you're going to take, other teachers, other videos, other perspectives, and you're going to put it all together for yourself. So I'm just giving you my put together, what I've put together for myself, what you could use as a tool for yourself. But there's no shortcut. There's no one video. There's no one teacher or one philosophy that you'll be able to just ask a question or watch a video and all of a sudden you know that everything. It don't work like that. It's a lifelong commitment that you have to commit your life to, and understanding that you're always going to be, there's always something more to learn. Especially we're on the 3D realm, man. There's no way we're going to know everything here by being on this lonely realm. Do you understand? We're going to, sometimes knowledge is experience, and it's revealed to you through experience. When you heighten your vibration, you heighten the levels of knowledge that you're open to. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, commit to study the teachings. And this lesson here, which is we're going to call El Kalku, or the creation, yeah, is one jewel that you could use as a reference. So I'm backtracking the clock and we're going back. Remember we spoke about 90 billion years, the insect war. We're going back even before the insect war. So before the reptilian wars, before the insect war, 90 billion years ago, the reptilian wars was 66 billion years ago. We're going to get to that. But I can only take you as far back as 76 trillion years as my understanding, over and understanding of when and where physical creation began. When we're dealing with from the spiritual plane, like the spiritual plane has no beginning and it has no ending. It just is. Like we say, all is. There's no time zone in there. Time is a part of space, meaning after the Big Bang, That's when the concept of time and space came. Before the Big Bang, there's no time, there's no space. Do you understand? So when we're dealing with aspects of the all and the spiritual realm, don't look for a beginning of the spiritual realm. There's no beginning. Do you understand? And in the spiritual realm, there's no ending. Okay? So 76 trillion years ago was when the first physical matter came into what we call existence, physical existence. Okay? And when you're dealing with creation, as we explained in earlier videos, it's not just the click of a finger, like we're going to click our finger and puff the magic dragon, something happens. You're dealing with three aspects of creation within creation itself. First, you got to understand in creation, you have primary creation, then you have secondary creation, then you have what's called tertiary creation. I'll explain that for you. Primary creation was done within the all by 9 ether. I'm sure most of you have heard before the concept of 9 ether, which is a combination of all existing gases. And remember, we say existing, so before life, things exist. So this 9 ether, all the noble gases, there's 9 noble gases. I'll leave you to do the research on what the noble gases are. But all gases in general combined into one unified force. And that unified force goes about creating. It's the most potent, powerful force in the universe. You understand? 9 ether. Primary creation is done by 9 ether, where you get dimensions and realms and galaxies and constellations and suns and black holes and all that type of stuff. Secondary creation is done by beings. The beings that come out of primary creation, like we're talking about Anunnakis and Neterus and Elohims and stuff, they are secondary creation, where they come in now and what's already here, they shape it into what it's going to become. Like when they come in and find Tiamat, after their activities, Tiamat becomes Earth. They shape Tiamat into what it's to become known as. Or you understand what I'm saying? So they shape and form and fashion what is produced in primary creation. And then after secondary creation, you've got what's called tertiary creation. Tertiary is like university. So you have primary school, you have secondary school, then you have tertiary school, university. You have further studies. So in creation, creation's never finished. So tertiary creation means that creation is still going on now. They've still got certain species and certain beings that are still being discovered every day. New species of insects, new species of fish, new species of algae, fungi and bacteria, new species of birds. So that means creation's never done. In religion, they give it to you like 7 days and then God was just done. He rested and nothing else in creation's going on. That's bullshit. Creation's still going on now. Do you understand? Just like after primary school and secondary school, your education still goes on. It goes on in the form of tertiary education. And then that tertiary education goes on in the form of we're learning things every day until we're dead. So the learning still goes on. In the same way, the creation still goes on. It's not something that's ended, okay? All this is done by the all, within the all, yeah? 9 ether is the ultimate intellect, the absolute intellect when we're dealing with the 1 billion, 8 million, yeah? All unified gases. And it creates by way of sound and vibration. We spoke about how vibration, fast vibration, yeah, is a high frequency. And when the vibration slows down, it becomes a slow frequency. If you slow it down slow enough, that vibration becomes physical dense matter. So creation comes from vibration, the slowing down of these frequencies. As I told you, in the spiritual realm, there's no way for no one to tell you this is when the spiritual realm began, or this is when vibrations began. Vibration is, everything's vibrating. It's always been vibrating. It always will be vibrating. So in a sense, spiritual sense, things have always existed and they always will exist. There's no beginning and there's no end. Energy can't be created and it can't be destroyed. What we're speaking about as creation is energy densifying into physical matter, because that's as far as we're going to be able to take it as mortal beings, okay? So yeah, sound, vibration, and electromagnetism. That means electrics, yeah, and magnetism, radiation, which forms physical dense matter particles, yeah? And as we said before, the 1 billion, 8 million is a unified, universal consciousness. In Egypt, we compartmentalized that and broke it down into different aspects. So like we spoke about on a previous live, Hu He, the force of creative will. That's what Hu He means. And Hu is Hua, or male energy, and He is Hia, or female energy. So Hu He is one of the forces, divine forces, that goes about within nine Eva, creating worlds. The two energy, centripetal energy, which is masculine energy, and centrifugal forces, which is feminine energy. Centripetal forces, which are forces that push out like a big bang force, expressive, penetrating forces, male, penis, ejaculation, and also grounding forces, inside forces, pulling forces that pull into and ground, which is feminine energy, which is why you have vagina and everything going on inside of you in the ovaries and in the darkness. That's feminine energy. Do you see what I'm saying? So them two forces, as well as Hika, Sia, and Ta. Hika is what represents the manifestation of magical powers. So the being that represents the magical manifestation of powers. And then you have Sia, which is to do with the utterance, sacred sound, the sacred word. And then you have Ta, who is seen as the originator God or opener God, who can be identified with Enki. And then you have Tahuti, who is the God of intellect and communication, yeah, and time. And then you have also the God Amun, the concept Amun, which is the concept of coming from the hidden or coming from the nothingness or the spiritual realm or the Nun. Do you understand? So them forces worked alongside Anu, the supreme intellect, in order to manifest this physical realm. Yeah, and it started as energy. Like when we're dealing with the physical realm started as energy, and then this energy began to move about. Yeah, and while this energy is moving about and slowing down in density, things begin to clash. Yeah, you have positive and negative forces now clashing. Now it becomes known, okay, that's positive, okay, that's negative, okay, that's good, okay, that's bad. So like I said, everything is created, excuse me, in the spiritual realm first. On the spiritual realm, when things began to clash, positive and spiritual forces, and conflicts started to happen, the supreme intellect, Anu, ordered all of the divine to manifest into the physical realm, so to take on form and take on a physical body. So from Etherians now, we become Anunnakis, or so from supreme unified consciousness, we become now beings, physical beings, to go about and experience our own experiences, whether positive or negative forces. These forces are still going to clash, just like in the spiritual realm. But like I said, there's a divine plan to it. So when you get energy and you get motion, that leads to emotion, which is energy in motion. Things start to clash, things start to move, movement and stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? And all this happens within what's called the luminiferous ether. The ether is the nothingness. When we spoke about sacred geometry and creating that holographic reality, or that nothingness by way of the ether. Yeah, and you get either one, either two, either three, all the way up to the most powerful, which is 9 ether. Yeah, so things clash, and once positive and negative forces come on the scene now, we've gone into what's called polarity. So we've come down out of reality now, when it was the supreme unified consciousness, yeah, and we've come down into polarity now. Hot, cold, fast, slow, up, down, good, evil. Do you know all of that stuff we was talking about? And so now we start to understand duality, yeah, because like I said, we was ordered by Anu, the supreme intellect, to come down, yeah, in vibration, to densify. Yeah, why? I can't tell you. Like I said, there's a divine plan that the divine one knows. Yeah, but also when you're dealing with this word Anunnaki and Neteru and stuff, there's 4 elements to God, if you like, or the gods, because you have Igigi, Etherian or Neteru, then you have Nomos, then you have Anunnaki. And Igigi or Etherians, they're symbolic of air, you understand, or ether. Then you have Etherians who come from the Igigi, because the Igigi is like the same supreme intellect. They're not beings. It's us when we're still in that spiritual form, etheric form, as what you can call black conscious and conscience gases that think, intelligent black gases that build black holes and suns and stuff. And they're, like we was talking about, the universe as being a giant being. So we're talking about Igigi, yeah, those who are high ones, or the ones who stayed in the high realm. And then you get from the Igigi, you get Etherians, or who we call Neteru. And when we're speaking about when we're speaking about Etherians or Neteru, their element is fire. Do you understand? And then when you slow down the vibration of these Etherians or Neteru, they become now what's called Nomos or Anunnaki. Nomos represent water. That's why most of them take on an avatar which is reptilian. Yeah, like the Nomos story with the Dogon. And then some of them take on a humanoid form, which you see as Anunnaki, because their element is earth. And so when you go back to Risk, all these beings live on Risk. Do you understand what I'm saying? You got Igigi, they're kind of like etheric beings, air beings. You got Etherians, fire beings. You've got Nomos, water beings, aquatic beings. And then you've got humanoid beings, Anunnaki. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's how, and all of that personifies from the spiritual realm, yeah? Remember when you ask about how this all happened, if you go back to the previous lives where we spoke about the science of the circle and the square, sacred geometry, and how the circle was put inside the square, and the square couldn't hold the pressure that the circle was exerting, so it exploded, and it led to sacred geometry. Do you see what I'm saying? And so you have like the first dot, and the first dot exploded and became the first line, and then it became a wall, and then it became a square. Sacred geometry is how all this creation, through sound, vibration, and electromagnetics, is how it's created, yeah? And then the first being that was created, that the all did, was create itself, first into the crystal green light, and then into the first Anu that sat on the sea as the most high Anu. Do you understand? And in Egypt, they call him Atum, or the first atom, and that means the undifferentiated one, meaning you can't even tell what he is. You can only describe him up to a certain point, because it's undescribable, it's undefined, it's undifferentiated. It's like that point when light first comes out of darkness. Do you understand? So Atum is representative of the first Anu, or the first one who came out of the Nun, who came out of the nothingness, yeah, and created the seat that we talk about, the seat of the Most High, yeah, and the 9 levels of it, being that there's been 9 times that competition has been had, so we've had 9 Anus, yeah, and the councils and cabinets that are built up around that Godhead, the Council of 24, the Council of 9, the avian beings, the bird beings, and all of that type of stuff. So that's the end of the first age, the golden age. When we get to 90 billion years, remember we started at 76 trillion years ago. Now we're at 90 billion years when them insect wars started. If you go to the live where what we put up called Wars in the Skies, it's speaking about 90 billion years ago in the insect wars, which was the end of the first age and the beginning of the second age, yeah? And in the beginning of the first age, which in their time, even for us, it's 90 billion years, 76 trillion years ago. Some of their cycles, according to their own time zone, it's only like the first 7,000 years and stuff like that. But anyway, in that first age there, yeah, at the end of it, you have the creation of the reptilians after these insect wars, which was 66 billion years ago. And you get all that madness that we spoke about with Tarnush, the reptilian, splitting into the Galactic Republic, yeah, because just after 90 billion years ago, after the insect wars, yeah, is when the Galactic Federation was formed. When I said most beings in this universe decided that, yo, we're going to need a Galactic Federation with galactic laws and stuff, and we're going to need a Most High to sit in the seat, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So that's when Tarnush and them made their galactic republic 66 billion years ago, after they fought Anu, the latest Anu, Razael, stole the last competition for the Most High, which he didn't. So also you have to remember that every planet has its own time zone. There's planets where a day is like 72 hours, or a day can be like a year, and then a year can be like a day. You understand? So every planet has its own time zone. You understand? Hold on. So when we get to 24 billion years ago, that's when the Nibiru crashed into this planet, which was then called Tiamat. So now we're going to speak about creation in the terms of this Earth and the humans that we have today. Okay, so in 24 billion years ago was when certain Neteru and Alalu and them, yeah, and the Nibiru crashed into Earth and spread their genes or DNA onto the Earth 24 billion years ago. Yeah. So the crash of Nibiru led to what's called the first Adama project, and Adama just means earthlings. So when Nibiru crashed and let off certain germs on the planet and stuff, and they had to repair the Earth and stuff, 24 billion years ago, yeah, it led to a project called the first Adama project, which meant they had to fix the world, which meant they also had to put back the eco chain, the ecosystem on the earth and the evolutionary chain on the earth. The animals, they had to replace the animals that they killed and stuff. So certain hominids were created on the earth, the first age of hominids, which we can call Nun and Nunet, which are small dwarf beings, 4-foot beings, that today we would identify them as pygmies and stuff, or the Twa man, or the Anu man. Yeah, so this is, like I said, this is going back 24 billion years ago, after the crash in Nibiru, when they had to fix the earth with the first Adama project, and they thought, okay, we're going to seed the planet Earth now. It's going to be reformed as the Earth, and we're going to seed it with the progeny of Amun-Ra. So certain algae, fungi, and bacteria that came off the Nibiru was left here to grow, interact with the sunlight and the water and the nitrogen and the hydrogen to crawl out of the water as certain beings. And like I said, when that Nibiru crashed 24 billion years ago, there were certain animals that were already here, especially reptilians in the form of dinosaurs and shit, that got wiped and got extinct, and certain types of what I won't call them human, but I will call them hominid, kind of humanoid beings that were living on the surface of the earth, especially reptilian ones, like them Maldekians, who wasn't just on the planet Maldek that was next door, but there was also some of them on earth as well, some greys, some troglodytes and stuff that was on earth, and they got wiped. Yeah, and that led to what you can call a nuclear winter while the earth was getting fixed, because it's not a click of the finger thing and the earth just gets fixed. It had to go through nuclear winters and shit where certain things are going extinct. You got cataclysms, you got pole shifts, and that led to the first genetic shift in hominids themselves, that they crawled out of the water, these beings that are mixed with Maldekians, greys, yeah, crawl out of the water is what anthropology calls genus Homo. When you study hominids, they're going to tell you hominids start from a creature that crawled out of the water that was called genus Homo. So we wasn't even walking upright. But these are the beings that crawled out of that DNA that was, remember when the Nibiru crashed, and there's like over 400 different DNAs on the Nibiru. Yeah, 400 plus different DNAs on the Nibiru. And all them Maldekians that was in the waters and lived on the earth when this thing happened, all them DNAs blend now. And the creature that comes out of the water is called the genus Homo, the first hominid. You understand? So that's the first genetic shift, which is our ancestors remember as Nun and Nunet, the little frog beings, or the Kemenu, the 8 creator gods. The first pair representing the first genetic shift is Nun and Nunet, which is going back to some 24 billion years. Yeah, and that first genetic shift lasted all the way till 17,250,000 years ago, when we spoke about the forces of Leviathan coming out of the sun and that, which led to a next genetic shift, and also culminated in what you call the Neteru on Earth, when the Neteru were in Egypt and ruling, going back some 28,000 years. Yeah, so hold on. Even in that time, 17,250,000 years, yeah, ago, was when we had that nuclear winter. Them ice sheets led to extinctions for a lot of different hominids and a lot of different groups that was walking to and fro on the earth. You get me? The same pole shifts and stuff that I spoke about led to cataclysms, but it was basically done in ice. And then at the end of that, from 17,250,000 years ago, go down to 2,250,000 years ago, yeah, you get another genetic shift, and you get meteor showers and stuff that ended that second shift. That second shift is represented by the ancestors as Kek and Keket, and that was to do with reptilians. Yeah, there was a lot of reptilians who came down and mixed with the hominids on Earth and stuff, which led to an upright being known as Australopithecus, if you go back to anthropology. Yeah, during them meteor showers, a lot of us had to live underground. Yeah, it was dealing with underground living, different types of hominids. Some went extinct, and then that lasted 2,250,000 years ago, to 450,000 years ago with the coming of the Anunnaki, Enki in them, which led to another genetic shift. You understand? That's the third genetic shift, and that's symbolized by He and Hehet. That's when they took these beings that was already created on the first Adama project, these Twa men from the Nile Valley. That's why if you go back to your Genesis chapter 2, verses 11 to 15, it tells you about the two rivers that pass through Egypt and Cush, or the Nile Valley, and they say the gold is good there. So this is the first place mentioned in the Bible when it's dealing with genes of Isis, the Genesis. So in the Genesis, the reconstruction, greetings to Empress Lotus. In the Genesis, in the reconstruction, it's not starting at the beginning of the story. Remember, I was telling you that in the other live. It's starting way up here in the story. Yeah, look how much we've spoken about, and now we're up here in the story talking about 24 billion years ago with the creation of Earth. Yeah, Genesis is talking about here, so it's left out the first two ages. It's not even at the start. But anyway, when it's talking about the Twa man, that was the third genetic shift, which resulted in the Khoisan people, or the Sans people of South Africa, with the yellowy looking skin, and they got the phenotypes, even the Chinese looking eyes and that, and they tell you they've got the oldest DNA on the planet. Do you understand? Because they're dealing with the third genetic shift when they're changing the Australopithecus into Homo erectus, and then the Homo erectus into a Homo sapien. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is being done by secondary creation, meaning the Anunnaki, because humans were already here in the basic form since the first age. Yeah. Yeah. So they produced the Khoisan people. This is the Anunnaki that did this under Enki and Ninti in the Lulu Amelu project. And all beings come out of these Twaman and the Khoisan people. Do you understand? So we're going back 450,000 years ago. And that led into, at the end of this second Adama project, which you can call the Lulu Amelu project, breeding, because they were breeding these people for primitive to be their slaves, to be workers, to work the gold mines for them. But first, they had to acclimatize themselves to the earth, because coming back from Lyra or Iluin, they're not acclimatized to the earth no more, these particular Anunnakis like Enki and them. They're acclimatized to Lyra and Iluin and Risk, the planets in their constellation. So when they came here, being under this dying sun was killing them quicker. So once they came on Earth, they was aging really fast compared to the ones who didn't come to Earth. So they was going back to Lyra and the Nibiru, older than their mums and dads. So they had to create a being from themselves that could be acclimatized to this planet. And that's where me and you, Kushite, Nubian, black man come in, because that's them using their DNA and mixing it with the hominids that was already on the planet, meaning the Twa man, and making me and you Kushite being, which is an Anunnaki who's acclimatized to this sun and this earth cycle. So we were the ones who were running their project for them as their children on earth. And then they went on to make further beings who they were going to use as the slaves. That's why it tells you Kadmon and Nekeba, or the black tribes, we were freed. And we were given culture, and we were given spirituality, and we were given the knowledge to know what all of this was about with the Anunnaki and the breeding of these Aldebaran grafted people and stuff. But we forgot who we are. Do you understand what I'm saying? We allowed them to trick us. So they developed us into the Homo sapien, and then 49,000 years ago was the last genetic shift, when they're giving you the Kadmon and Nekeba story, and they give you like the tablets of Adaphor, Enoch, because they started upgrading our knowledge and upgrading our chromosomes even more. So the Homo sapien became now what you call Homo sapien sapien. So meaning it's Homo sapien, but it's now even smarter, it's upgraded. That goes back 49,000 years ago, and that leads to your story of Adam and Eve, when they're telling you about the 7 days of creation. Because we broke down in the last live how the 49,000 is 7 times 7,000, and it was 7 stages, not 7 days. 7 ages or stages of creation, so 7 stages of 7,000 years, which is your 49,000 years going back into your Adam and Eve story, which is only that story on earth, according to religion, is only 6,000 years old anyway. So your sun was created 93 billion years ago out of the death of a bigger sun. And the bigger sun before this sun was called Sol, or Sol Arena. and that sun exploded, and that sun had 19 planets around it, super planets. Them super planets were hurled off, exploded, and became the 19 galaxies. Now, one of them, which exploded, was the planet Om, and that planet led to the formation of this Milky Way here, the 18th galaxy. But there was 19 planets that exploded around that super sun Om. Once the super sun explodes, another sun, smaller one, is born out of the remnants of the last sun, like a phoenix. And that's what leads to our sun, the Shamash, which was formed 93 billion years ago when we first got into this neck of the woods, running from Pegasus. Yeah, 24 billion years ago was when Tiamat was reformed into the planet Earth with the crash of Nibiru and the smashing up of Maldek and the creation of the asteroid belt. 11 billion years ago was when the moon broke off from this Earth. Yeah, it broke off from this Earth. Yeah, because there was a Lunarian, which means Maldekian crossed with a Hindu, and his name was Lunar, and that's where you get the word lunatic from, because he let off a bomb in the Grand Canyon and blasted out a chunk so big, today you call it the moon, which is now hollowed out. Yeah, and that's why you get the word lunatic from the deity Luna, who was the mad scientist 11 billion years ago who let off that nuclear bomb right deep 30 miles down in the Grand Canyon and blasted out a chunk called the moon. Yeah, and that's also why the moon has control over mad people, lunatics. When the full moon's out, it affects their lunacy, lunatic, lunar, moon. It's all connected because of this deity. Yeah, so there's been 4 genetic shifts. Yeah, and if you read Genesis, it tells you that the sun got created twice. Yeah, so in the beginning, yeah, when God said, "Let there be light," what light was that? Because the sun's not created till like verse 3 or something, yeah? Check it. But the sun's created twice. So if the sun's created twice, which one is our sun? And the first sun, yeah, what time zone is that? Because if God comes here and the sun's not created yet, whose time zone is God functioning on? Because our time zone's linked around our sun. So if our sun's not created till it says, and then God created the sun, which is way up in the 3rd verse and stuff, then the verse 1 and 2, whose time zone is God operating on? I've gave you the jewels now talking about different time zones and how the Anunnakis on their own time zone and acclimatized to their own planet. But if you ask a religious person, I bet they can't tell you that. I bet that will just leave them baffled. Hold on, the sun's created twice. And before the sun was created, what time zone was God on? But anyway, when it says let there be light, it's really speaking about there was a dust cloud, because the impact that Nibiru caused when it came and smashed up this neck of the woods. Planets like ours, Tiamat, Earth, was surrounded by a dust cloud which blocked out the sun. So when Enki said, "Let there be light," he was asking for the removal of the dust cloud. He was asking the beings who stayed on the Nibiru, the heavenly gods, yeah, as opposed to those who were on Earth, to remove the dust cloud so the light of the sun could shine through back onto the surface of the planet. Yeah, and as I said, all the DNA that was here, once the sun starts shining, it causes an interaction with your chemical reactions with your CO2 and your oxygen and rare. Now the processes can start again because they've removed the dust cloud, which led to this nuclear winter. Do you see what I'm saying? That's really what let there be light means. It doesn't mean that that was the first time the sun was being created. Yeah, it means that there was a dust cloud that needed to be removed, and Enki was the one who was asking for it to be removed. So as I said, there was genetic splices that led to different creatures being created, like the Aldebarans and the Caucasians, who were really created to work the gold mines. Yeah, they were different to us, the beings that were created in the image and likeness of the Anunnaki themselves, and given history and culture as their children on Earth to watch over the project. They would only return every 3,600 years to check up on us. Yeah, and they created that Shem, Ham, and Yafeth story to try and give themselves a place in history, because their place, when I say them, Muzungu, they come from the mountains. So when the story in Genesis about Lebanon, Canaan, and Esau is really talking about the creation of them, Greeks and Romans, and 11 tribes of Canaan, which tells you who and what they are from Genesis 9:25 all the way up into Leviticus, so you can get it firm in your head who they are. Yeah. One of the sons of Canaan, Hamath, was born black, and he was born black because one of Canaan's wife was his sister Salha, who was a black woman, and she didn't have the leprosy. So when she produced this black son called Hamath, which means black, like Ham Kam, yeah, he is the father of the Indians and the Pakistanis. I'm talking about Hindustani, East Indians and Pakistanis. They come from the tribes of Canaan, but they come from the son who was born black. But that son then went and mixed with all his other brothers, all the other white tribes, and ended up being them Hindustani, Indian, straight-haired East Indian people and Pakistani people today. Yeah. And Jacob ties into the story because he and the Pleiadians and the Hindus was 2,800 years before Canaan. So we're talking about 8,800 years ago. 2,800 years before Canaan, Lebanon, cursed with the leprosy, was born. We had already been mixing with this group of black Hindus who were running with Jacob and the Pleiadians, and they already had the recessive gene. So Nama, who was one of them, Noah's wife, she passed that gene into one of her sons, her black son Cam, yeah, and from the black son Cam, yeah, you get one of them born pale like these beings called Canaan, or Lebanon, but called Canaan in the Bible. Yeah, and these people led to the Germanic groups of Mzungu today, like the Vikings, the Six Kings groups, yeah, and also the English and the French and the Americans and the Dutch. All these are Germanic, Aldebaran, grafted groups of Mzungu humans, yeah. If you check Kemet, Kemet is at least 100,000 years old as a culture, but dynastic Kemet is different. Dynastic Kemet only goes back some 4,000 years, yeah. And Kemet, the 100,000-year-old legacy of Kemet is Kush Tarseti down south in the Sudan, yeah. Even in dynastic times, they told you that. So they used to call it Old Man Kush because that shit goes so far back into the time that most historians and stuff refuse to put them dates out. But that shit's at least 100,000 years old, and it was a super civilization, meaning it had boat technology, it had air technology, just like you might think of the USA today. And they traveled the whole world, and they mapped the whole planet, and they mapped out the cosmos, the whole shit. And then it got reset. When you had the flood and all this Anunnaki stuff, we had reset upon reset in this planet Earth here. And the planet Earth has been reset and remodeled a couple times itself. Yeah. And so it leads to different beings coming down at different times, like the case of the Olmecs who came down in Africa and walked over to America before continental drift. And the beings that they came from are the Centaurians. They're really big, they're really strong, massive. That's why most of them Nahuatl Indian tribes in America will tell you, yo, these were giants, these Olmecs. They were giants. Them stone heads are massive. These men are like 9 to 12 foot tall and stuff, man, on some shack thing. Yeah, and that's why they look like that. And a lot of Americans have that blood from the Centaurians. Yeah. So yeah, right now I'm going to open it for some questions because I just wanted to give you a brief about how all of that, because we've spoke about creation in the theory of everything, that live, and a few more of them. So I know a lot of you haven't watched all the lives yet because you started at the beginning last year and you're still on last year's lives and stuff, but you will come up to the answers that you're looking for other than what I've given you here, because as I said, there's no one video or one time you're just going to know it all. Once you keep on studying and keep on studying, you retain more and more until you're able to articulate it for yourself and spread the message and discuss, build with somebody yourself, and you'll start amazing yourself. But you have to commit yourself to learning and taking your notes and going over it in your own time. So if anyone's got any questions, I will take them questions from now. Shout out to everyone, yeah? Yeah. It is said, Empress Lotus says, it is said that the face on Mars is a laboratory and it's connected to the Lulu Umelu project, which is a right statement. The lab on Mars goes back to the Anunnaki and Enki's time when they came down to start their second Lulu Umelu, the second Adama project, which is called the Lulu Umelu project. And they was abducting beings from Earth, humans from Earth. So this goes back to what I said, Genesis 2, chapter 2, verses 11 to 15. They were taking the women from the Nile Valley and abducting them up to Mars and creating different beings. Do you understand? And the lab that they had on Mars and still have is called Shimti, which is where the face is, the lab of Shifty, and that lab of Shimti, and that face is supposed to be the face of Cadmon. But before the project was even finished, I want to say, it was interrupted by Alpha Draconians, reptilians, and there was a war on Mars. So before the Anunnaki even finished creating humans or new beings and stuff, we still had something like 137 corrections that needed to be carried out on humans, yeah, at that point. And they had to abandon the project because the project became infiltrated with Pleiadians and reptilians and greys. They interfered with the project. So we're not finished. And as I said about the genetic shifts, involving greys and aliens, that explains why, greys and reptilians and Anunnakis, that explains why your first semester you look like greys, and then your second semester, yeah, from 3 months to 6 months, you look like reptilians as that embryo, and then the last semester, which is 6 months to 9 months, the Anunnakis project with Enki and them, now you start looking like humans. So first the embryo looks like a grey, yeah. Look at any picture of an embryo. And then the embryo after the first semester looks like a reptilian. Look at an embryo in its second semester. And then in the third semester, only in the third semester do you start looking like a human being. Yeah, they're the 3 different beings who had a hand in your creation, as to that line that I've just gave you now, going back all the way back to 24 billion years ago when we crawled out of the water with all that grey DNA. And then on land, how we mixed with reptilians, and we became the Australopithecus, or the kind of dragon man, reptilian man. And then after, when the Anunnaki come down and tweak the project, now we become the humanoid person. Do you see what I'm saying? So yeah, that lab on Mars, Shimti, is linked into the story. And they also have a Shimti lab on Earth, and I'm sure it's in Pumapunku, which is Alalu's city. And they also have one on the moon. Is there any more questions for anything you might have towards creation, in the sense of the first age of creation or the golden age, and then the wars, or Earth, or human beings, or the Adam and Eve story, anything like that? If not, then I must be the best answerer of questions. Come on, guys, you've got better questions. What happened to Kingu and the other half of Tiamat? So when I said Luna and lunatic, Luna's other name is Kingu, I should have said. That's why we don't use the word king, because it's a spell. And he put it's like this: when Kingu was ruling on Maldek, they're the Hindus that went to Maldek and mixed with reptilians, yeah, black Hindus. And he was only ruling the top half of Kingu. Or Earth, because he couldn't rule on Kingu. Them Mandekians and shit would mess him up. But on Earth, he was ruling the top half of Earth. And somebody else, I can't remember who, was ruling the south part of Earth. And they had a war where he didn't win. He thought he could rule the whole Earth, he didn't win. So when the thing was going on with Nibiru, he thought, do you know what? I'm just going to blow up my half of the Earth. He's a lunatic. So he had one long tube, which was some like 30 miles down in the Earth, right where the Grand Canyon is. And he blew up the fucking, he detonated the bomb and blew out a chunk of which became shaped into what's called the moon, Kingu. And he lived on there. When he blasted it off, he was on that part of the Earth that got blasted off. And him and his people lived on there, and his people are still on there. And today we call them Lunarians. When they tell you, yo, there's people who live on the moon and stuff, them motherfuckers still live there. So Kingu is lunar. Or Kingu was one of the names of the moon, yeah, as Kingu. Because first it had its own water on that little chunk and stuff, its own atmosphere before that atmosphere died off. It's too small to hold its own atmosphere. So after a while, that atmosphere dwindles off into space and shit. So that's what became of Kingu. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah, any more questions? Because out here, cold and a mother, yeah? Should have put a coat on. But I packed my bag to go gym like I always do, and thought I'm going to do this first, because it's good. If I go gym first, it gets too dark. And then it's better when you can see my face, so you can feel like we're having a conversation. Do you see what I'm saying? But yeah, so Kingu, we don't use the word king. We use the word Nesu or Suten yeah, or Aphrodite, you understand, or Sekhem, you understand, or Oba, yeah. We don't really use the word king and queen because them words there is to do with Kingu, the lunatic and the spelling shit, man. You understand? Yeah. So physical creation goes back 76 trillion years. Physical. Yeah, it has a beginning in space and time. Time and space begins 76 trillion years ago. And each sun creates its own time zone and creates its own time space. They're the growers. That's why these are called planets. It's like plants. The suns grow planets, and they grow planets like how we grow plants. So they're the true alchemists in the universe. And some suns or stars, they don't even have planets around them. They're just stabilizers. They just stabilize their neck of the woods because you're dealing with matter. So the guardians are the suns. They're living physical beings. They're gardeners, and they garden the cosmos. And a lot of them suns are created, like I told you, created by Anu and his technology. Could you educate me about whether we can go outside this earth with this physical body? Yeah, you the black man, you can live in, I think it's 9 to 12 different environments. So you can go out of this earth, yeah, because the fact that you have this melanin shows that you don't originate on this planet. Because in order to survive outside of the atmosphere, where there's all this radiation and solar bombardment, you're gonna have to have an abundance of melanin or a screen, a protection. So all space beings have an abundance of melanin. You don't really get a lot of Muzungu aliens because they ain't built for out there. They're gonna need a whole bunch of technology. You understand? But in order to do that, you have to take out certain things out of your diet, like heavy meats and that. You can't be a heavy meat eater and be able to travel outside. You're gonna need a lot of technology for that. But within ourselves, if we go back to our spiritual self and go back to our alkaline diet and plant-based diet and go back to our meditations and speeding up our vibrations, we can travel outside anywhere we want by going inside. Do you understand? Because there's no outside, there's just inside. You can travel that way. But also, a lot of our family have technology where all you have to do is just, like I said, wean yourself off of meat. I know certain family members that when they travel, they have to stop eating meat for a week, or some of them for 4 days before they can go on certain flights. When I tell you about, I know beings who go to council meetings and stuff, and they school me as to why I'm able to give you certain information and stuff, along with my own renderings, because what they say matches up with what I've researched and the whole shit going all the way back to Dr. York. All of us are connected through Dr. York, and we're on every continent. You understand? And all of us are being protected. None of us have got broad platforms. Do you understand? But that's the job that we do. But yeah, we can travel. I can't travel right now because I still have too much smoke, weed and all of that stuff there. If you drink alcohol, meat diets and stuff. But in order to do that, first you got to get right within yourself. Do you understand? And either the council going to holler at you and tell you what you need to do or what you should be looking to do if this is your intention, or you'll find it within yourself to go within and connect with them on the fourth dimension through your fourth chakra. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question. We definitely can travel outside of this dome. No, NASA is a front. If you ask me, have Muzungu gone outside of the dome? Yeah, of course they have. But NASA is a front, and they want you to believe that they haven't gone outside of the dome. So they want you to believe that their only technology is NASA. NASA's old technology. If I tell you a car, yeah, like the Audi truck, yeah, if I go back to the first Audi, like maybe only 100 years ago, you'll see the development, all the Audis that led to this Audi and how quickly they developed to this beautiful truck here. Yeah, you could do it with a phone. Look at the first phones that was like brick, a whole brick on your face. And then within the space of 20 years, we got phones that look like this and flat like this. So how come rockets, NASA, the rockets today look exactly the same as they did when they first showed us rockets? So that's how you know them rockets is bullshit, because the technology ain't even fucking changed. They're showing us the same technology that they used to tell us that they went to the moon. No, they never went to the moon in them first 4 space launches. All they did was made a whole bunch of fucking money so they could make a secret space force and start going into alien technology. With the alien technology that come out of Area 51 and Groom Lake and the contracts that they have with reptilians and Pleiadians and Greys, they travel with them boys to different fucking planets and shit. But they definitely ain't traveling in them rockets at NASA. NASA's a front. Do you understand? It's a front to keep this globe Earth bullshit going. They need that front, NASA. But NASA first, the first 4 projects didn't go anywhere. Now they go into lower Earth orbit, which means they can go right underneath the dome and fucking hang up a fucking space station up there and tell you they're in space. They ain't in space. The bulk of them don't go to space. 1 or 2 of them who have different ancestry, like Elon Musk, who's a theologian, and certain different Richard Branson and them, they're not really humans. They're just portraying themselves as humans. Them motherfuckers go outside of the dome. Yeah, a lot of them. A lot of them are trapped under the dome. Even though they got technology, they can't travel outside of the dome. So they can't travel outside of the dome in no large numbers and shit. Do you understand? But certain ones of them can. And certain ones of them have been having contracts with certain different demons, let's just use the word demons, whether they're Alpha Draconians or Greys or whoever, and they travel outside of the dome. Don't get it twisted. And that's why this Star Wars is happening, because they're not supposed to be out there. They're not supposed to be traveling outside of that shit. Once that shit Tamahu gets outside there, Muzungu, it's fucking Star Wars. They're trapped. They're supposed to be in jail. Do you understand? But they did it as to why they have to fucking be brought to justice, because they're breaking cosmic law. Yeah, they just making it confused on Earth. Yeah, they're making it confused on Earth, and that's why they keep NASA. NASA's just a front with old technology. Is the Greek version of the Titans really the Anunnaki? No, the Greek version of the Titans, when they speak about Anunnaki, they're speaking about Ashtar Command. They're speaking about the Galactic Federation. That, remember, you got the Galactic Federation, that's the real gods, Anu and them. And then you get that split with, now the reptilians have got their own thing, the Galactic Republic. Then that Galactic Republic split, yeah, and they had the Galactic Federation of Light, yeah. The Galactic Federation of Light is Zeus, yeah, Sananda, Chiron. So now from Zeus and them, they give you that Titan Olympian story. So you're dealing with the seed of Zeus and that once you're going into the Greek and the Titans, because yeah, they're all talking about Anunnaki, but they're not talking about the same Anunnaki. Like Zeus is not talking about Anu or Amun-Ra in Egypt or something. Do you understand? Zeus is talking about Zeus, and Odin is talking about Zeus and them, because Odin and them are the Norse people. They're a Germanic tribe. So when they're telling you about the Norse gods, they're telling you about the Titans, who was fighting against the Olympians, which is their ancestry. Do you understand? So even though it's Anunnaki, which is a broad term, it's not necessarily talking about our gods. When you're talking about Titans and Olympians, that's talking about Zeus and them and their own mad wars, what they had in their own shit. You see, duckneck cloud, you keep using the word space. There is no space. Yeah, we have satellites roaming about in lower Earth orbit. Yeah, not space, not outside the dome, no. You understand? And outside the dome is not space. Outside the dome is what I call allness or consciousness. You understand? Space doesn't exist. Space is just presence, and presence is consciousness. Because when you become present, you create space and you become conscious in the now. So when you're saying out there, do we have satellites out there in space? There's no space. If you're saying, do we have satellites outside the dome? No. Yeah, all satellites are underneath the dome, and satellites are in lower Earth orbit. It's not necessarily space, just like the space station and stuff. They're not in space. They're in lower Earth orbit. That goes for satellites, any objects. What man says he's put up out there is not out there. It's under there. Do you understand? So no human has gone outside the dome. No Tamahu, Muzungu. Listen to what I'm saying carefully, because you're asking the same question that I've already answered. No Muzungu has gone outside of the dome without the assistance of a demon. Yes, people have gone outside of the dome with the assistance of reptilians, greys, and whoever else. They haven't gone out there with their self, yeah? In order for them to go outside of the dome, they need alien technology. Hence, you have Groom Lake, Area 51, and various other USA bases that are dealing with anti-gravity alien technology. Yes, they use them and go outside the dome. Yes, they use wormholes. Yes, they use stargates, but they don't use NASA. NASA don't go with a rocket and go and penetrate the dome and go outside the dome. In order for them to go outside the dome, they need alien technology. I hope that answers your question. And that goes for human, whether it's satellite, whatever. To go outside, you need alien technology. You need demons to give you that key, so you travel with them. And once you do that, you're breaking cosmic law, because you can only travel with permission. Yeah, you need permission from the Anunnaki. If you don't get permission from the Riskians, you're not supposed to be traveling outside the dome. So whether you're traveling with demons or not, you're breaking the law, because them demons are breaking the law. I hope that answers your question, Duck Net Cloud. Do you have any movie recommendations that tell us the truth? I got loads of movie recommendations that tell us the truth, but I'd rather put that on the, because I've got them written down, because I had a live where we were speaking about the real, and we was breaking down movies, what you can look at and see movies that are actually warnings and telling you what they're trying to encode into reality. So I'd rather go in, grab that. I might have it here, to be honest. I might not. And then I'll be able to put a list on the feed, so you could go and watch them. Because there's a lot, man. This Hollywood do that for a living. Yeah. So like, here's some: Demolition Man, Total Recall, RoboCop, Terminator in the form of Skynet, and the AI that we're getting into now. And if you watch the late Terminators, it show you how Henrietta Lacks ties in when they took her DNA to make up all these medical cures and shit. Obviously The Matrix, Lord of the Rings, Immortals, Ex Machina is a good one about the AI shit. Surrogates is a good one for the metaverse. There's a series called Humans, Minority Report, Deja Vu with Denzel Washington, Core, which shows you them going to the center of the earth, Journey to the Center of the Earth, which is about Hollow Earth. I'm sure they got one with The Rock and all them kind of people in there now. Escape from Witch Mountain, which tells the story of them two kids that came out of Hollow Earth. Obviously Men in Black, films like Stargate, series like V and the X-Files, Star Wars, Star Trek, if you want to know about the Vulcans and the Galactic Republic and shit. The Philadelphia Experiment, which was based on a true story. The Boys from Brazil, which was based on Adolf Hitler and his breeding program for the Pleiadians. There's a series on Amazon called Childhood's End, which is very interesting. There's an event that they stopped showing that was called The Event. A series called The Event. That was really good if anyone can find that. It's about aliens who come on the planet. They look like humans, but they never age. And the way that they never age is that they drain all the energy out of the children and shit. So it was kind of showing us that crone culture kind of shit that we're seeing today with the fucking Epstein and all that. Yeah? But they used to show it on Channel 4 called The Event. Obviously Avatar, that planet is really like that. They really went there. They really made them avatars. Yeah? Altered Carbon on Netflix, if you still watch Netflix. Resident Evil, that Umbrella Corps is a real pharmaceutical corporation. Obviously They Live, that's a cult classic. Invasion, Foundation, if you've watched that on Apple TV. Species, Alien, Prometheus, Predator, Eyes Wide Shut, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Host, Oblivion with Tom Cruise, if you want to see about that Borg and shit and cloning. Elysium with Matt Damon. Hunger Games, Squid Games, Bird Box, Contagion, The Walking Dead, Constantine, Black Panther and all Marvel movies. Luke Cage, The Island, Universal Soldiers, Transcendent, Stranger Things, National Treasure, Lucy. So you got a whole list there. You see what I'm saying? Got a whole list there. Could you tell me about death in the melanin story standpoint? Death is just change. We explained in our other lives that nothing is wasted. If I heat up some water, it turns into water vapor. It's not water no more, it's gone. But it's not gone because it's in the air. I just can't see it. If I start the process from evaporation, if I now start condensation, then I'll show you that the water's still there because it's going to turn back into raindrops and drop back down. So in the same way, you're made out of 77% water. So if you can't get rid of water, no one can destroy water or get rid of it. It's just in a cycle, and you're 77% water, so then you're just in a cycle. Just like if I get any water, water's always trying to return to its source, whether it's in a stream or whatever. You're always trying to return to your source. That's why we speak about God and shit. So in the same way in science, how you can prove to yourself nothing can be destroyed or created. It just changes form and changes cycle. That should prove to you that you can't be created or destroyed. You can only be reformed and recycled over and over in different forms and different experiences to add to this same critical mass that we've been speaking about. Do you see what I'm saying? My battery's flashed up. To be honest with you, I'm very happy. I hope I did a good job because it's getting cold out here, yeah? But we can still continue this, like by any questions, just put them on the thread. I'm always watching stuff over and stuff to try and give you something better. So if you still have questions formed, do like I do, go back to the start, watch it again. Watch the other ones that I suggested and stuff. And come up with your questions and put them on the thread, and I give you my word, I'll come and answer your question to the best of my ability. If I can't, I'll tell you I can't even answer no further for you. Do you understand? But I'll keep liaising with you and guide with you and break and build with you, and we can come to a conclusion and help each other, yeah? So with that being said, we love you all. That's the end of the transmission. That's where creation originated from, 76 trillion years ago. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that's the beginning of physical creation and our physical time and space timeline. And we've got many different timelines coming from different suns, different stars. Yeah? Peace. Namaste.